Alright, this is a video to show you how to change your ozone bulb out of this box. You don't have to change the whole box. If you wanted to change the box, you could, but the screws, to access the screws, you have to take the front cover off. It's just the same amount of work to get that off, to take the screws out to replace the box. So you might as well just keep your box and not replace it, and just replace the bulb because it will save you money. So, first thing, well, this is where your other black hose hooks to your spa. Just a heads up, if you ever come out and see water leaking out of this hose right here, it's because your check valve failed. So this is here to only allow the ozone gas to go out into the spa and not let the water backtrace and make it into the ozone. You do not want water in your ozone. It will blow out your bulb. And this piece doesn't go to anything. That's totally normal because it sucks in fresh air, goes across, turns into ozone, and then mixes with the water. So it's okay when one side has nothing attached to it. So the trick here is you do not want to use a drill. You could use a drill on pretty much everything else in your spa, but not this, because every time I used a drill, for some reason, it stripped the middle part of the threads of the screw to where it almost like melted it and dropped it down to the bottom threads to where the middle's skinnier than the bottom and the top, and the screw literally stuck there. So you have to grind it off or cut it off with something. So do not use a drill. Just use a handheld screwdriver. So you just unscrew your screws here. Now, the older design had tighter holes here, which made it a little harder to open up the box. In this case, it's easier for me, so you may struggle with it a little. What you may need to do is while you're opening it, feed more hose into it while you're doing it. So under here, there are two little metal kind of lips, I guess, that you can't, it doesn't let you just pull the cover straight up because they catch. So what you want to do is you want to slide it down a little bit, and while you're doing this, this is where you feed some of the hose into it while you're pulling it down. Then once you have a little gap here, you can pull it back, pull it out of there, and that's what I'm talking about. Those guys like to catch on the lip there. So then you have more slack when you're pushing the hoses in to get this thing to turn over to access these two screws. So you're going to take these two screws out with your drill. I'm not going to do it because it's useless, but you just take these two screws out, and then you want to get these hoses off of the bar pieces right here. So you can do this with a flathead screwdriver most of the times. If you can't get it off, you can cut it off with some wire clippers or scissors or anything to cut it off with. But I'm going to just use this for now. You can get it off enough to loosen it, pull it off. Do the same with the other side. Then you're going to unclip this connector right here. It's a little tight right here. Unclip it, take it out, get your new bulb, screw it back in there, plug it back in, and then hook your hoses back up to it. So over time, this rubber hose starts to get really stiff and it's hard to get off or put back on. So if you do cut it off and you can't get it back on there, you can get a lighter and just, put it aside like that and just put the flame under it low enough to warm it up a little. And once it gets a little squishy, then it's time you could put it back on there. So you get that guy in there. And that's pretty much it. And then you're just gonna wanna, as you're going to close this, you're gonna grab the hoses and pull them so that if there's too much slack, it won't let you put the door back on. So you wanna make sure these little wires are tucked away. And then pull back enough to get these two little guys in the box. And then you could put it back down like that. Now, when you're putting the screws back on here, you want to put all 4 of them in, just start them each a little bit, get them all 4 in there, and then tighten it down all the way. Because if you just get one in here and you crank it down tight, it throws off the rest of them and they won't line up and you won't be able to get the box cover back on. So you just, with your fingers or whatever, get these guys on here. Technically, if you wanted to, you could just put 2 screws on there, caddy corner, just because you don't have to have all 4 screws on there. You just want the cover shut. So, and when you're closing it, you don't have to crank on these because there's no water involved. So that's all you got to do. It's pretty simple. The hardest part is getting the door off when you have the tighter holes here. But if you have this brand new design, it'll be a lot easier for you to do.